Okay, we are live. I want to thank everybody for being here. Yes, I love it. I love it. So, if you guys are new here, my name is Wanaki Halima. I am a full spectrum doula and I specialize in all things yoni and femininity. I'm also a mindfulness coach. You can find me at Wanaki Halima. I always do it wrong. At Wanaki Halima. Right here on all social networks. That's including Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And Balance, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Balance. My YouTube is Balancing Codes, and I love talking about mental health, trauma, and healing. So that's what we're here to discuss today, relationships as well. So I'm here for the tea.
Absolutely. So today we're going to have a little bit of story time. Myself and Balance are very spiritual women. We pride ourselves in being spiritual women and the experience dating as a spiritual woman. And we'll also be giving some advice as well for people that are going on their journey right now so that you don't have to start from the basics like we did and you can have something to work from.
I know that's
So,
right.
uh, correct. So, like, let me ask you, what do you think is the biggest difference as a spiritual woman dating now, whereas before your journey? Well, when did you start your journey? I guess would be the first question.
Like the journey, I
Like
could.
how many years? I don't want you don't we ain't gotta
Oh.
put everything out there. Like
I would say for me, the journey started really early when I started to come into having like knowledge of self and just focusing
mm,
on spirituality more than the physical realm. So my interests were a lot different than my peers, right? So knowing that you're not really connecting with those around you, so, I mean, it was easy to spot people that you don't connect with, but it was a lot harder to find people that you have things in common with, right? Who are focused on spiritual growth and, ascending. So it wasn't that often that you find people that are interested in the books you are, the food, holistic health, um, protecting your eyes and ears from just anything and what you're watching, the music that you're listening to, protecting yourself from just anything that's causing you not to have good discipline. So even if that comes to like drinking, sex, all the things that everyone else is doing. So for me, the journey was hard. It was a hard transition, only because everyone around me was not on the same wave. They were doing their just completely different lifestyles. So a lot of people dropped out of my life. So it was tough. It was tough, but I learned a lot about myself. And that's why I say it's a journey of knowledge of self, because that's what I'm on personally. And yeah, so it's been over a decade, probably a lot longer than that, but I'm just giving you the short version because I didn't want to keep you here all day. So I say at least a decade. I know I look like a baby, but I'm not a baby. I'm just saying.
I would say, so you're a little bit older in the game than I am. I
I
would
don't
say
know about.
about, I mean, older, not age wise, but in the
I
game.
know you talk about on the journey.
I mean, you know what? Because it's levels to it, and I think that even though we went about it differently, there's still levels to it because I do believe about 10 years ago, I started realizing where I was at,
Yeah.
but I didn't really dedicate myself to my spiritual journey until about 8 years ago. And that was because I was in a space that I didn't want to be in. And I was recognizing it because 2 years before that, I started making transitions in my life. And since I was making transitions in my life, similar to you, instead of people dropping out of my life, I was dropping out of people's lives like left and right. Like I'm not answering your phone calls because once I started seeing certain things in people, it just became disgusting to me. Like certain behaviors, certain things that you're allowing yourself to put up with. I mean, and it was like very temperamental. For example, I had a very close friend and she kept allowing certain things to be done to her from her boyfriend. Like he was sleeping with men and she was coming up with different things and she kept being intimate with him. She felt like, oh, I love him and he loves me. And I dropped myself out of her life because I felt like anybody that I was going to be with was going to be honest with me and was going to put me and my body and my safety first at minimum. At minimum. Like that's like the bare bottom bare, like, and so since I was already thinking like that, it was easy for me to be like, okay, this person has absolutely no discipline. They still eating pork. They don't think for themselves. They're waiting to see what Cardi B is talking about to know what their opinion is gonna. And as all these little things were happening, I started removing myself. And it became easier and easier for me to see what I wanted and what I was looking for. And was I love it here too. And you know what was crazy, because you mentioned like your peers, because your peers also are a reflection of where you're at in life. So if you don't know where you are right now in life, look at where your friends are, and if you are comfortable with where your friends are at, then move forward with where you are. But if you're not happy, your friends are a reflection of you. You need to start doing some shifts and changes. And
Yes.
like you were saying, protecting yourself, because the media will poison you. And whether you realize it or not, if you watch things like Love and Hip Hop, you watch the Zeus Network, all of those things influence your self-conscious, your subconscious. And as your subconscious is influenced, you're going to move forward and start creating habits that are a reflection of these people that are not a reflection of you. For
Mm.
example, Cardi B will not allow her daughter and her son now to listen to her music, but your son, your daughter, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews know all her lyrics back to back. Why is it okay for you but not for her children?
Yeah.
We have to look at those things. So really protecting our senses, our ears, our eyes, our nose, all of these things, we have to control the things that we can control, because there's things in our environment that we cannot always control. So just taking those things in perspective, when I started applying those things to dating, I stopped putting up with a lot of things. And I stopped having placeholders. Are you familiar with
Yes, you
placeholders?
have to break the placeholder down so people know exactly what that means, but I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, so when you have a placeholder is somebody, and there's levels to placeholders, right? So you can have a placeholder, which is somebody that's decent, they're okay. You know that when you're bored, they're gonna come through. When you have certain needs, they're gonna come through with that too. But you don't really want to be with them, but you don't really want to be alone, because right now it makes sense to have them around. And you make all these excuses, and you're keeping somebody in a position that they don't deserve to be in, because you're not ready to practice solitude, because you're not ready to practice celibacy, because you're not ready to really zoom in and focus on what you want, because what you want might not want you.
Woo, woo.
But it's the truth, because I started being so honest with myself. If I want a man that takes care of himself, am I taking care of myself? If I want a man that's athletic, am I into sports or am I working out? Pick one and do both. You know what I'm saying? If I want somebody who's going to respect me, do I respect myself? And how do I practice that respect? Because I set the presence for myself. So, what are your thoughts? Those are some of the things that I went through in the beginning of my dating journey as a spiritual woman.
I had a very, very similar, very similar outcome or thought process because be what you want to attract. We say all the time, oh, I want somebody with all of these great qualities, but we don't possess any of them. It's like that.
Mm.
It's like counterproductive. So definitely, when you're talking about the physical, the mental, emotional, spiritual, all of those things. But for me, it was developing emotional intelligence. Cause I'm telling you, I would be emotional over everything, like a typical woman. So that part where I'm like, oh, I'm elevating and I have so much knowledge of self, but you can't control your emotions. What kind of elevation is that, right? So I had to, so
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
I had to learn emotional intelligence, and I got so good in reading and learning and studying that I started to teach it to other women. So I'm like, you know what? I became an expert, and that's the thing, things that we think is like something that's a weakness, really it's just it's telling you to pay more attention to it, and then you develop it and you could turn it into a strength, so I think I had to learn how to do that, and now I teach other women how to handle their emotions, which is a beautiful thing. But that was my issue, when I didn't like I wanted to control outcomes too much. So when I didn't, yeah, when I
Ooh.
couldn't control the outcome, which you never can actually, but when I accepted the fact that I couldn't control the outcome, things changed dramatically. My relationships improved, my confidence, mental health improved. All these things improved by just changing your perspective on life. So that's what worked for me. And then I started attracting less emotional men.
Ooh, because they were a reflection of you.
Hmm.
Wow, wow. Don't do that because now it's making me reflect on the
Yeah.
type of men that I was attracting.
Yep. Yep.
And I've always attracted very masculine men, but I
Mhm.
was not necessarily attracting masculine men that were emotionally intelligent. Now, you said that, so I'm putting you on the spot. Can you tell us what that means? Because I'm sure there's people that are along their journey and they don't necessarily know these terms. And I want it to be as simple and basic for anybody that's going through the journey to be able to learn from us in every way that they can in a holistic way. So, being a part of the community, you do come across terminologies that you never heard before. Because before I was a healed woman, you're saying emotionally intelligent. I'm like, I
Mhm.
would have been a little bit confused.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
I want to
so
hear your take on that.
I'm so happy you said that because it's actually factual. So sometimes we need to change the language to do layman's terms so people can understand what we're saying. Because if you're speaking in a psychological terms, people don't know what you're talking about. They don't know what you're saying. It just sounds like mumbo jumbo that they're going to just like keep scrolling, right? So
Yeah,
it's
and correct, because you reject the information that you don't understand. So
very
let's
true.
keep it tribal. Let's be a tribe, right?
I love that you said that, and I love that you did that because that's very accurate. And so emotional intelligence. I guess the easiest way I would say it is learning how to self-regulate, learning how to control your own emotions. Really, like if you're, let's give examples that might be better. So let's do examples. So say like you're having in this I can't get too personal, hold on. Okay, let's say you're having a disagreement with a partner, right? And in that moment, they did something that angered you so greatly, but they didn't even realize how it affected you. They didn't realize they hurt your feelings or that they made you upset. They don't even know what's going on. And you storm in and you're cursing and yelling, and they're just sitting there like, I don't even know why you're mad. And you're just screaming, yelling, and cursing because you're so angry that you can't control how you feel. So when you can't control how you feel, you can't relay how you feel. You can't tell others how upset you are because you're just acting out and you're yelling and screaming and throwing things, and that's just people. It's become normalized in our culture, but that's actually not having emotional intelligence. That's actually not being able to self-regulate or control yourself and control your emotions. Emotions is just energy in motion. And when you can't control it, it's out of control. Energy's everywhere. Nobody knows what will happen. People are afraid of you. You're liable to do anything. You're liable to stab somebody. The woman, I don't know if you saw the post I sent you yesterday where the woman, 30-year-old woman stabbed in the neck her 42-year-old boyfriend because she wanted help with the rent and he wasn't paying any bills. And now she's in jail. And I'm mad at the comments. Like all the comments were saying, thank the Lord she ain't got to pay no bills now. She ain't got to worry about rent no more. And it's like they are laughing and making a joke, but that lady threw her whole life away because she couldn't self regulate, because she didn't know how to control her emotions. She didn't know how to say, you know what, I'm too mad right now to have this conversation. Let me go somewhere and calm down, calm my mind down, and come back and have a civilized conversation where I'm not so angry to the point where I stab this man in the neck where he almost dies. And that's what I mean when it comes to just learning how to control your emotions. When you know you're not good at it yet and you're still learning, sometimes it's best to just walk away. Sometimes it's just best to get some fresh air, take a deep breath, go somewhere by yourself and calm down, because you can't control it around your emotions around other people. And when you can't, anything's liable to happen. That woman is only 30. She's a baby. I don't even think she had children yet. She's in jail for attempted murder because she couldn't control her emotions, right? And it could be any one of us. Any one of us could snap like that when we don't learn how to self-regulate. So learning how to take those deep breaths, how to calm your mind, how to not let your blood pressure go all crazy when you're upset. It's a skill that you can learn. People just think they're predisposed to things and that they can't change it, and they're like, oh, my mom was a firecracker, I'm a firecracker. It's just our nature. But actually it's a skill that you could develop, controlling your emotions, and you can. So that's what I love to teach. But
So you said so many things.
I know. Because it, like,
Um,
literally when I do the training, it's like a 2-hour training, but it's life changing. Go ahead.
Correct. And I definitely understand that because when I do my coaching sessions with women, one of the things that we always do is reflect on experiences that we have.
Mhm.
And instead of allowing those experiences to weigh us down and break us down, we utilize those experiences and conform them into tools.
That's
So if you've had an interaction with somebody and you weren't happy with that interaction, let's replay it, reframe it, so that the next time that we have this interaction, we know how to react. And instead of react, we're acting.
hmm
Because as we go throughout life, we're acting. And like you were saying, energy is emotions is energy
it's
in
emo-
motion, right? And that was
Mhm.
a gem that I want people to not skip over,
Yeah.
right? Energy in motion is emotions. And it's really about being able to have that self control, and not just having that self control, but being self aware. So
Yeah.
when we talk about emotional intelligence, it's about being able to express yourself in a manner that does not take you out of who you want to be.
Yeah.
And it takes time to get there because as we have all of these emotions that we're learning and growing into, as we're in puberty, we start to learn and mimic the people that we're around. So if you're around people that do not have any emotional intelligence, meaning that they're angry fast, they're frustrated fast, and many people that look like me and you, unfortunately, we grew up in single parent homes. And when all of that weight of another person is on one person and they're still trying to get themselves together, because many of us have young parents
Mm.
and we grew up with our
Super
parents.
young.
We grew up with our parents. If you are anywhere between 25 and 35 and your parents are not in their 70s yet, you have a young parent. You have a young parent. If
They
your
babies
parent was
too.
Okay, if your parents were born in the 60s and 70s, you have a young parent and you were growing up with your parent. And what happens when that is going on is they're dealing with emotions and feelings when they were having you that they didn't completely have developed because they didn't nurture themselves and their inner child, and they were just popping out babies in the 70s and the 80s. And that being said, that whole time frame with the sex, drugs, and just living their best life, imagine how that reflects to us as adults. We mimic their behaviors. So
Yes.
if you want to, just like you said, oh, my mom is a firecracker. Oh no, I'm a boss. Da, da, da. That's how that transforms to us because our moms were firecrackers. They did what they had to do. Then we turn around and now we're boss bees out here running it. But no, that's an unhealed energy because as women, we are receivers and
Yeah.
we are to receive. So if you are in the notion with a man that does not make you feel like you are a receiver and that you can't receive, and you still feel aggressive and you still feel frustrated and you're worried about what's going on, it's because he's not the right person. As a woman, your whole construct is to receive. We are portals. We are to receive and we release out. And that's why, one of these gems that you guys need to really keep in mind is if you tell a woman that loves you something, it will go and expand beyond measure. Because as women, we give birth and we help things grow. Now, if you tell that information to a woman that is unhealed, it will do the opposite. It will go
Mhm.
nowhere, and you will be a man that goes nowhere. And that's why you notice that many men that are powerful, they have a woman right next to them. And she may be quiet, she may be minding her business, but she's making sure that that house is a home. And there's something about having a nurturing environment that allows things to grow. We see it with plants, we see it with children, and we see it with adults. That nurturing aspect, and as women, since we are receivers, we have to be healthy enough to be able to nurture ourselves when other people are not there to nurture us. So, keeping that all in mind, going back to emotional intelligence and making your weaknesses be your strengths. So if you're learning right now what emotional intelligence is, take a moment and be more self-aware. Think about the last couple of interactions that you had with people. What did they look like? Were you happy with those interactions? Because the people that you interact with are a reflection of you.
Of you.
And that's where you can start, right? Ashe. Ashe. But you said so many things that I was like, wait a minute, we gotta expand on them. Especially like if anybody doesn't walk away with anything, know that energy and motion is your emotions. So
Hmm.
the actions that you put out there, whether you're reacting or you're acting, that is going to comply what you receive. So if you're actively moving, then you're going to have the things moving around the way that you want them to. And if you're not, you're going to have chaos, you're going to have disaster, you're going to have to be aggressive. So what are your thoughts? You look like you want to say something and I'm like going on and on.
Yeah, I no, I mean, I'm just in agreement with everything you're saying, and I'm so happy you're doing this live because our intention is to spread knowledge and love and assistance. You know, that's why we're here because we had so much life experience, and we're still going through it too. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
like able to share and assist other sisters and just anyone on their journey is why we're here. So I just want to say that this is good. Like people think that relationships when they end that was just a negative, and I say all the time, you can learn from any experience, right? So I think when a relationship ends, we should look at not just the negative aspects, but how did we grow in that relationship? What did we learn about ourselves? What are we going to do
Ooh.
differently now? Um, do we have more self-respect, more self-love? Like you had to have learned something about yourself in that relationship because relationships are reflections of you and where you are. So if you haven't learned anything about yourself, you ain't doing it right. You're not doing it right. I'm telling you right now. Like you should clearly see what you need to work on in relationships. And if you're at a point where you can't take any self accountability or see where you need to grow, you need to stop dating. You need to stop.
Ooh, let me mute myself on that one.
No. You need to stop dating and you need to stop blaming the other person, right? Because you're going to continue to get into these cycles and end up with the same lessons that you never learned with different people. So you keep going through these cycles over and over because you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're not expanding. It's not everyone else. So we need to remember in relationships, you are there to grow. And if you're not growing and learning about yourself and developing more knowledge yourself, you're doing it wrong. Then you're only doing it to get something out of it. That no. No, it's a listen, it's reciprocal. So it should be a give and take and it should be a journey where you're both growing and expanding. If your relationships aren't going that way, separate. Just separate. But okay, I you're
No,
supposed
that's so
to.
true because earlier I was on a live on TikTok
Yeah.
and I was talking about habits and
Mm,
how your life is a reflection of your habits. And then
yeah.
you end up in a cycle. And once you end up in a cycle, it's hard to get out of a cycle. So it's imperative that you are self aware so that you can stop cycles from going on. And when you realize, okay, I keep dating the same guy over and over and over, men are trash. No, you're the
You.
common denominator.
It's you.
You are the common denominator. This is what you're attracting. So if you're attracting trash, mama, you're trash.
Mhm.
So you have to take the time to be able to say, okay, I keep attracting the same thing over and over and over and over. What about me is attracting the same thing over and over and over? And that's something that I really tapped into in my spiritual journey because at one point I was attracting the same type of man who was entrepreneur that was doing very well in business and may or may not meditate, may read, um, is a good man, but isn't interested in spirituality. So it was like, I'm getting everything except for that. So then I was at one point where I was like, at this big age, maybe it's okay because at least he hasn't been to jail and at least he don't got no baby mamas. And then I reached another part of my spiritual journey where I was like, why do I think that that's the standard? That is not the standard. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, that is not the standard. And I started realizing I can have exactly what I want, but I have to become the woman that that man would want. And
Mm.
then that forced me to focus more on myself instead of the man. And
Yes.
as I started focusing more in on myself, I started drawing in and attracting the type of man that I want to where I am now, where I'm completely satisfied. So, and that's what the goal is. The
Yeah.
goal is to attract everything that you want because as a woman, we are to receive. And if you don't put yourself on that pedestal that you are deserving, people treat you the way that you treat yourself. So
Ooh,
if
say
you believe people treat you the way that you treat yourself.
yes,
So if you believe that you are not deserving, you aren't.
you're not. That's a
You're
fact.
not. You're not.
That's such
And
a
you really have to put yourself all the way here. And it's like we spend so much time with ourselves that our weaknesses are so evident to ourselves, but other people do not look at you the way that you look at yourself.
yes.
So start looking at yourself like you are aligned with that God energy, that you are a receiver and that you have a purpose. And once you start living in your purpose, you can start filling up your own cup so that somebody with a full cup can come to you.
And I love that you said that. I'm not sure if you still wanted to play your clip or not, but if you are or you're not, I got to say this in the meantime. So, because I was on a TikTok live where a man he went live and he was just bawling, crying, just crying out of nowhere, and we're like, we don't know what's going on because we just came in the room. We don't know why he's crying. So I jump on a live with him, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, hey, I'm Balance, what's going on? Why are you crying today? Like, what's happening? And he was saying that his wife, that he married after only 2 months of knowing her, left him. And he said this is the third woman in a row that has just upped and left him. And it's really hard for him because they're bonding with his children. And he's such a good man and does everything for these women, gives them whatever they need. They don't have to work. They don't need for anything. And he's like, he doesn't understand how he could treat women so good and they just discard him. And I'm like, how do you treat yourself? You're discarding yourself. You neglect yourself. You don't care about your own emotional well-being. You put other people's needs above your own. You love others more than you love yourself. So they're treating you how you treat you. They're disrespecting you the way you disrespect you. They're neglecting you the way you neglect you. And he was just like, but he was a 40
No, I'm sorry, but he can't. No.
he was a
So
40
he doesn't have.
42-year-old black man, 42, 43 black man, and he just kept going through the same cycles with women. And then he's like, I also have a charity where I give money and I give clothes to the homeless and all these things. He's a giver. And then we started to dig into his childhood trauma, and he was actually gave up by his parents, so he ended up in
There
the
you go.
foster care system. And I'm like, that's where it stemmed from. Like
Yep.
he never felt love, so that's why he over exerts and gives so much love, because he also feels like he's not worthy. I did ask him, I'm like, do you feel worthy of love? He cried. He just broke down even more. It's like he doesn't feel worthy. And he's always giving, 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 because that's the only way he knows how to attempt to have a relationship. And it never works. And I'm like, you have to love you first. That's where it's gonna start, where you're gonna keep being in these cycles. So he had a really good, I was on there, coaching him for a good little hour. That one's just, put out there, in the universe for free, but it comes back. It always
Yeah.
comes
Oh, it always comes back. Like, no, it most definitely comes back because even if it doesn't reach him the way that it
Everybody
should,
that
all the
watched were
people
like,
that was there.
yeah.
Correct, because he's operating in lack, and that operating in lack is a reflection of your inner child not being nurtured. So when you said that he was going through that, it was like 1 plus 1 equals
Mhm.
2.
Easy to
So
say.
if you were, and the thing is that you don't have to just be in a situation where you were going through the foster system or you were adopted and you were looking for your parents to be there or loved ones to be there. You could have also been brought up in a single home where your mom had to work, so couldn't be there. Your grandmother might have been young, so she was living her best life. Your grandfather might have been with your grandmother living her best life. And then it left you to nurture yourself. So as an adult, you're looking to give that love because you have so much love built up and you feel like all people really need is love. So if I give them what I was looking for, then I'll get that in return.
Don't work
And
like
that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the universe, the God energy is going to say, you keep giving, 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 giving. I'm going to give you more opportunity to give. Now, once you start giving to yourself,
mm,
and you don't, that we're not talking about monetarily, we're
no.
talking about things that are not tangible.
Yes.
When you are kind to yourself, you're
Yes.
patient to yourself, you love on yourself, and love is an action. Love
Action.
means that you're eating well for your body, you're
Yes,
nurturing your body, that you're working out. Love is an action.
it
That
is.
you have a clean house, because
Yes.
a sign of depression and anxiety is your everything being thrown around. And it's not to say that you're dirty, but it's to say that things are thrown around, that you may be living in clutter. Living in a clean home is a reflection of self-love. Pushing people away that do not serve you is self-love.
Mm,
Keeping people around you that are doing things that you like and that live life similar to you want to like is self-love. So all of these little things do not have to cost money for you to love on yourself. And once you start doing those things, it naturally attracts people that have that same mindset, because they love themselves, they are able to love you.
yes.
So I don't even think we need to play the clip. We
Okay.
can use the clip for another time. I
Okay.
know that we did discuss going live again tomorrow
Yeah.
at
And we will.
1:15. Okay, so while y'all are at
Lunchtime.
lunch, right, while y'all are at lunch, holla at your girls. We're gonna be there giving you some good tea and entertainment, story time,
Go.
and dating as a spiritual woman. So before we close up, okay, so we talked about dating as a spiritual woman, but we didn't really give no story time and no tea.
Ah,
So
you gonna give a
I'm gonna
story
give.
time? Let me mute
I
myself.
think, I think I am, because this was my idea, right? Okay, so oh man, all right. So I was dating this guy, and he allegedly. Let me not even do him like that. I was dating this guy. I met this guy, and it's 2019 at the time. So everybody is meeting people online, right? I know I'm not the only one that does online dating, right? Well, I'm not doing that anymore, but I was. So I met this guy online, and at the time I was living in Miami, and he was from Jersey, and he had just moved to Hollywood. So if you're familiar with Florida, they're about 20 minutes away from each other. So it was perfect. And he gave me that Jersey vibe. So I loved it. So I loved it because it felt at home. Like the things that I thought was weird, he thought was weird. The conversations that I had, the slang that I had, all these things was just super comfortable for me. So I was very excited. He was a perfect gentleman. He ran his own business. He even gave me some guidance with my business. It was a really good give and take. But then one day he asked me to do a reading for him for his business. And I only do readings for people that I know and recommendations now, even though I do coaching sessions. But at the time I was doing readings for whoever. So I did a reading for him, and his money came out good. His finances came out good, but he was so broken inside that he appreciated a healed woman, because it gave him the facade of being healed. Because all the women that he was dealing with were very, very broken women. Um, and through his reading, I realized that the woman that he had two children with, again, this was back when I was like, maybe I need to date somebody who it's okay if he has a baby mom as long as whatever. Um, the two children that he had, the baby mom was 20 years older than him, because he was looking for that nurturing. I didn't know this until I did the reading and I started saying, wait, how old is she? Because I kept seeing this older woman. And even though he was a little bit older than me. So I think he might have been like 4 or 5 years older than me. So that meant that she was 25 years older than me. She was still doing childish things. She was still, oh, I sent you a naked picture by mistake. That wasn't meant for you. She was still doing that type of stuff at that big age. Okay. Like you old enough to be my mom. Like my mom, like you literally could have been my mom, man. And for me, I after doing his reading, I was like, we're having such a good partnership, making money together, that I know that if I switch up on him, he's gonna expect certain things from me. But I had to realize where I was at in my journey that other people could bring me back to where I don't want to go. So everything that you do can keep you on your journey or push you further away from your journey and your goals. So everything you do is important. And I realized, mm, I'm gonna pick me. The money will come. I'm gonna pick me. The man will come. I'm gonna pick me. And lo and behold, I stopped with him and I was honest with him about it. Hey, we're not on the same path spiritually. And he was not happy about it, but he was okay with it. I think because he thought I was playing. I think he thought I was playing. The whole time I wasn't playing. Maybe if he would have met me a couple years ago, I might have been like, let me see, maybe what he talking about. No, this time I was serious. So he hit me up again, and I just reminded him, "Hey, do you need anything with business? You want to do this, whatever, whatever? Because I saw you called me, but I'm not interested in anything else." And I just moved forward with it like that. But what I learned from that was if I would have stayed with him in that situation, I would have had a placeholder, which would have pushed me further away from being where I am now with the person that I'm with now, because that placeholder is so easy to have a placeholder and lose sight of your goals and the things that you want. Even, and this goes with everything. If you have a job that you don't like, you know what I'm saying? Find another way. If you need to stay where you are now for right now and be looking for something else, actively look for something else or quit that and do something else. If you keep a placeholder, you have no space for what you really want. So, what are your thoughts? If you want to give your closing thoughts, and then I'll give my closing thoughts.
Thank you for sharing your story because I do see it helping people whether they're watching this later, now, later, a year from now, 5 years from now, because it'll still be up here, girl. And I'm so happy that you decided to do this because this is why we're here to share, to assist others on their journey and being spiritually um, connected with someone is necessary in a relationship and it's necessary for your growth and expansion. They started to call me apologies. So
No
it's
problem.
it's necessary for your growth and expansion to connect spiritually. And I love that you said if you're not doing that with a person, it's best that you leave because a placeholder will keep you from what you want, from your long-term goals and desires because you're filling the space. Like you're getting comfortable. You're not going after what you want as hard. And somebody is already in that spot. So you can't go get something else to fill it that you really want because something else is there. So it's like somebody saying they want new furniture or something like that, right? But then they still keep their old furniture that they had for 20 years and it looks terrible. It's just dirty and they just keep it there and they're like, yeah, eventually one day I'll get new furniture and they just don't because they don't clear out the space. That also goes for like spring cleaning. Clean out your closet, throw away old clothes that don't fit, throw away old shoes that are worn down. Make room to receive what it is that you desire in whatever aspect that is. That's what we need to be doing on this journey, and that includes people. So, you got to go away with the old to receive the new. I love that you did that, and I love that you shared that story. I had a similar experience. I think a lot of people get comfortable. This is my closing. A lot of people get comfortable with placeholders, people who they want for just the right now, not the long term, because they don't want to be alone. And being alone is such a beautiful, expansive journey because when you're alone, yeah, I mean, I don't want to make this video long because I know you're trying to close. So, like when you're alone, you really have time to learn who you are as well. You have time to see what changes that you should be implementing in that time. That's when you should be implementing those changes. Whatever you learned in the past relationships, you should be implementing those changes right now when you're alone. Placeholders keep you from what it is that you desire. When you're alone, not only do you have room to receive, but then you should be acting. You should be out there working on yourself so you could attract your equal, which is your best self. So that's my closing. I thank you for having me on your channel. It's been a lovely, lovely, lovely build, and we need to do this again. So 1:15 tomorrow. Eastern?
Absolutely. So I do want to do my closing.
Of
Absolutely.
course, of course, of
1:15
course.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
We will definitely be doing this again. This is something that I do want to continue doing because I wish that I had somebody to talk to when I was going through my dating journey now, because it's completely different than when you're just doing whatever. When you're dating with a purpose as a spiritual woman, it's a whole different experience. You experience the man differently on a mental, physical, and emotional level. Your emotional intelligence is stronger. So if they're not feeding you the way that you want to be fed, it's okay. You feel comfortable to walk away.
Yes.
You feel more comfortable to express yourself in your femininity. There's times that I have to say certain things, and I am not as good as a communicator, believe it or not, than as my man is. But because we are compatible and because we want to see each other grow, he allows me to have that space to express myself and take my time to express myself. And that's again something that I'm working on with my inner child. And because he sees that in me, he's able to uplift me and support me in that. And that's why it's important to either practice solitude or be with somebody that can feed you that way. Because
Hmm.
when you're with somebody that's not emotionally intelligent enough to say, okay, I see that she's willing and I see that she can grow and I see this in her. All I have to do is push her just a little bit and know enough that she knows that this is okay,
Yeah.
you know? And that's about being emotional intelligent. And that's about him being able to be the leader in the relationship. And
Yes.
in order for him to be the leader in the relationship, I have to allow him to lead. I
Hmm.
have to be able to give him a place to sit, a place to do what he needs to do. And I can only allow that because of who I am.
Fact.
So it's a whole circle. It's a whole thing that you have to work on in a holistic way to be able to receive what you want. So as we're closing, thank you so much,
Thanks for
Balance.
having
And I
me.
look forward to doing this again with you. We
Yeah.
also have our Saturday shows that we do as well. So please keep an eye out for us because we are here to serve and help you grow as we are growing on our journey. And this is something that we do. So if you are a woman, or if you're somebody who is looking for guidance along their spiritual journey, we are two different people that have two different styles, but we do similar things. So check out our pages. This is our social medias right below. So you can check out our pages and see where we can help you at. I'm gonna speak for myself because I ain't trying to put you out there, but our DMs are open.
Stay open.
Okay. Okay, so our DMs are open. If you have a question or you want to reach out or if you have a topic for us that you want us to tap into, if you have a story for us that you want us to talk about, or a video, you can always send us videos as well, and we'll talk about that and review them. So thank you guys again. Thank you, Tribe, for being along our journey with us. And we look forward to growing and learning with you guys again.
Sending love
So,
and light. Thanks for having me. I love it,
of
sis. Every time
course.
we're together, it's just a beautiful build. So
I
thanks
love
for
it
having
because we learn and grow. Like I really
me.
grow with you
Yeah.
on a few different levels, and
I grow
I've
with
even
you.
seen, yeah, I see growth in you as well. And it's
Yeah.
only been a short amount of time, but I feel like when you're able to stand in your femininity alongside another woman who is a healed woman,
Yeah.
you have no choice but to grow. So
So fact.
we want you guys to continue your journey with us. Peace, kings and queens. We out.
Mhm. Yes.